The story centers around the special abilities that occur among a small percentage of boys and girls in puberty. Yu Otosaka uses his powers without others knowing and lives a fairly normal, average school life. Before him suddenly appears a girl named Nao Tomori. Due to his meeting with her, the fate of special power users will be exposed. Starting with the positives for Charlotte, I do gotta say that I really like the premise. Kind of reminds me of X-Men, where a bunch of mutants have their powers and they're kind of hidden, they're kind of underground, and that's what it kind of reminded me of with Charlotte. Maybe I'm just a sucker for superpowers, but I do really like a lot of the powers here. Our main man Yu can possess people for about 5 seconds, and he uses that for pretty perverted things. Sometimes he looks down the girl's skirt, or sometimes he'll use that to cheat on his homework and he becomes the highest level student in terms of his class. And then you got Now, who can turn invisible. You got a few other characters. One of them can go really, really fast, but he gets injured and is bloody. So it's like when he uses that ability to steal a couple sandwiches, I feel like people would probably get the idea that it was him that does it. And you got another character that can switch personalities. So she's kind of like Launch from Dragon Ball, but a bit more moe. Another really big positive I do have to say for this show is that it looks good. This is done by PA Works, and they always do good looking shows. I like the backgrounds, I like how glossy it is, I like the character designs, I think they look superb. And overall, this is just a really good looking anime. And if there's anything that I take away from this show is that it's a good looking show, and that's probably my favorite part about this show. I also gotta say that the music was top notch, and it all sounded really good. It fit in with the moments that were happening in the show. I thought the opening was really good. The ED was alright. I usually skip EDs, but it sounded pretty good for the 5 seconds that I heard before. The show gave me an option to skip to the next episode, but hey, it was pretty good. And also, I watched this show with its Japanese. There is an English dub, but for me, I felt like I was watching too much dub, so I just switched over to the sub, and it sounded pretty good. The dub, it was alright. I think the show just fits better with the Japanese dialogue. I don't know, maybe it's just a me thing, but I preferred this in the Japanese. The last positive I'll say about Charlotte is that I do like the main characters of Now and Yu. I think they both develop pretty well throughout this show, and they're likable, and they got good chemistry with each other, and I was kind of rooting for them in some areas, especially the one episode, and I won't tell you why that happened or how it happened, but I will say that around episode 6 or 7, I believe, Yu starts to get depressed, and you see him in the dark eating nothing but instant ramen and just being really depressed, and then eventually moving over to an internet cafe eating nothing but pizza and just not really taking care of himself and playing video games. He beat up a bunch of thugs, and it was really sad to see him go through that. And unfortunately, that wasn't enough to make me like the show. While I do like the concept, it just wasn't grabbing me and it wasn't pulling me in. It wasn't making me feel invested. And I think it's just because it has to do with a very weak cast. While I do like the two main characters, Now and Yu, everyone else I just felt didn't get enough screen time for me to care. The one character that can go really, really fast, I mean, that's really all I can say about him. The girl that can change personalities, that's all I can say about her. And they do have some cool moments here and there, but I feel like if this show was just a little bit longer and they can give those two characters their own episodes for me just to get to know them a little better and hang out with them, I think it would be a lot better. And my main issue with the show is the weak cast. Besides those two, everyone else is either forgettable or they just didn't make me care. Charlotte started out pretty decent. I like seeing you learn about the abilities of different people, knowing that he's not the only one with special powers, and going through each episode when he learns a bit more, and unfortunately that tragic happens, it was it was interesting, but a lot of it was just kind of boring to me. Like when I was going through this show, there was nothing going on that made me want to watch the show. Like, just straight up, I didn't want to watch it. Other than the really good animation, there was nothing else that caught my attention, made me want to get excited for the next episode. A lot of times I was just kind of in a drag when I was watching the show. And unfortunately, there's only one good episode in the show, at least in my opinion. Before that and after that, in my opinion, was just kind of boring. It was convoluted, and I just didn't care. Big thanks to My Name is Doofy, My Asthma Senpai, and Warpbait for supporting me on Patreon. You guys rock. And if you want to join the Patreon, there's a link down in the description below. You can join at any tier,